This is part 2 in how to play shootout hockey, and today we're going to be covering how to assign assists after a goal is scored, and maybe cover a few other things which weren't explained in the first video. So for the demonstration, we have a couple of teams from the newly released 1969-70 season. We have the Bruins and Rangers. Now with assists, there are 5 possible ratings that a player can have for assists. Now they're found in this column right here on the team cards. The most common one will just be a dash showing no rating, which means that the player will get a average number of assists relative to the goal scorers that are on the same line with him. At the end of the year, he will have a pretty accurate stats, I've found from having done a few full season replays. So that's one possible rating. Another is R5 and 6. Now both of these are given to players who have an above average number of assists relative to the other players on their line. And the best rating to have is this, all. You don't see that very often. And that is every time that this player's forward line, Phil Esposito, every time his forward line is on the ice and a goal is scored, he automatically gets an assist. Except if he's the goal scorer, of course. Some players can even have both the 6 and the R5 in the case of Bobby Orr. And finally, the last rating is this XL, and this is for players who have a below average number of assists relative to the other players on their line. Now, all of these will come into play on this column right here on the action card. And the first number is showing, the first reading is showing which forward line is on the ice. The second is showing which defensive pair is on the ice. Now anytime a forward scores, let's say John Rattel scores a goal, you automatically know which forward line is on the ice. It's going to be line 1. So when you flip an action card for the assist, you don't need to look at the forward reading because you already know which line is on the ice. What you will refer to is the defensive pair to find out which defenders were on the ice with him. And in the case of the card we just looked at, it would be defensive pair 2, and that would be Arnie Brown and Jim Nielsen. So for purposes of assigning the assist, those are the 5 players on the ice for that goal. Line 1, defensive pair 2. Now here's an example showing line 3, defensive pair 1. And here's a reading of 4B for the forward line. Now that's showing it could either be a 4th line, which is more common with the modern teams where they have a larger roster, 18 players or 17 or 18 players dressing for a game. And the B is for bench players, which are usually in the older card sets during a time in hockey where they only dress 16 players, 16 skaters, and they usually just use 3 forward lines and maybe had 1 or 2 forwards on the bench. Now in the case of Boston, they have both a 4th line and some forwards on the bench. So in this case, if one of these players scored by their scoring letter, then you know line 4 is on the ice. If one of these players score, the bench player, since they don't have a line, how you handle it is you can roll a dice or use whatever method to determine which line this player is substituting in on. So Ron Murphy's a left wing. If he happened to score, since he's a bench player, you can roll a dice and see which forward line he's on. And let's say line 2 comes up. for that play, he's considered to have been substituting for Johnny Busick on that line, and his line mates would be Fred Stanfield and John McKenzie. So that's how the bench designation works. Okay, so for scoring, as I mentioned, the first thing we're going to look at is the first box to see which players are on the ice. Then you're going to draw another action card, and the first box under assists is who's going to get the first assist. And after you get that designation, you draw another action card and you look at the second box for the second assist. Now the rules say to flip 2 action cards to get the assist. I generally flip 3 for even strength play, and I find it hasn't really altered the final stats to something unrealistic. I still get unassisted goals. I still get goals with only one player assisting. Now, in the case where the reading shows a position, like left wing, right wing, left defenseman, right defenseman, that player that's on the ice automatically gets an assist. There's nothing to check. You automatically give it to that position. If a reading of R5 or 6 comes up, only a player on the ice who has that rating will get an assist. Now, if there's no player on the line with that assist, let's say it's line 3 for Boston, Sanderson scores, and let's say defensive pair 3 is on the ice with them, none of these players are rated 6 or R5, and none of Sanderson's line mates are rated R5 or 6. So for that reading, there would be no assist, no first assist. You would draw another action card and check for a second assist. Now let's say you drew this one right here. You look at the second box. The center gets the assist, but in this case, since Sanderson is a center and he scored the goal, there would be no second assist on that. So for that goal, that would be an unassisted goal. But as I mentioned, I would flip one more action card. Now another reading that you can get is this one right here where it says line. Now that is where the rating of XL is going to come into play. When you get the reading of line, that means that all the players, if it's a forward that scored the goal, the other 2 players on his forward line automatically get an assist. So if Phil Esposito scored and the line came up as the reading, Cashman and Hodge would get an assist because they're on the same line. The line reading also comes into play for defensive pair. If Jim Nielsen happened to score and line came up, you would just give 1 assist to his defensive partner, not to anybody on the forward line that's on the ice. Line applies to either the forward line if a forward line scores, or a line applies to a defensive pair if a defenseman scores. So if Nielsen scored and a reading of line came up, Arnie Brown would get an assist, and then you could draw another card for a second assist. Now if it was the other way around and Arnie Brown scored and a reading of line came up, Jim Nielsen would not get an assist because the XL rating indicates that anytime a reading of line comes up, that player will not get an assist. Now it's possible if that's the first pick, Brown scores, a reading of line comes up, you don't give Nielsen an assist. Now it's possible that on the next action card you pick, a reading of right defenseman could come up, in which case you'd end up giving Nielsen an assist after all. But this rating is for players who usually have a lower number of assists, so that they get something that's accurate to their seasonal totals. So that's how the assists work. Maybe we can do another example here. Let's say line 2 is on the ice for the Rangers, and we picked an action card, and it shows that defensive pair 1 is on the ice. So let's say Fairburn scores. We draw the first action card, and it's this one right here. So it's showing R5. Only players with that rating get an assist. And on Fairburn's line, Dave Bellone has the R5 rating. He gets an assist, and nobody on the first defensive pair has that rating. Now it's possible that if you have two players with that rating on the ice, they would get the 2 assists for that play, like for Boston. If Stanfield scored and the defensive pair on the ice with them was defensive pair 1, and the reading of R5 came up on the first box, you would give an assist to his line mate McKenzie and Orr. So you wouldn't need to pick another action card. Your 2 assists on the goal came off the first action card in that instance. Now back over here, if Fairburn scored, if this was the first action card right here, it's showing right wing, but since he's the right wing and he scored it, there's no assist there. Pick a second card, let's say this one right here, left wing. So in this case, Dave Bellone is going to get the assist again, but not because of his R5 rating, but just because it showed a position. And when a position comes up, that player just automatically gets an assist. So I believe that about covers all the possible situations that could come up. Let's see. Oh yeah. Here's another. There's also a reading for the defenseman of defensive bench, and again, that refers to either defensive pair 3 when it says defensive bench, or any defenseman that happened to be in the bench area at the bottom of the card. See, in the Bruins case, it's only forwards who are on the bench. So if defensive bench, if that rating of DB came up, you would look on defensive pair 3, and these would be the players eligible for the assist on that play. So I think that about covers it for the assists. Now a few things that weren't covered in the first video. One was an example of the goalie's rebound rating coming up. Now let's say someone on the Rangers had a shot. Let's say Fairburn again. He came up with a scoring chance. And let's say this was the action card that was picked. Let's say he has a scoring chance from the blue line, and the reading of rebound came up. So it's going to test the opposing goalie. Let's say it's Jerry Cheevers in this instance. It's going to test his rebound rating. So Fairburn is taking the shot. The rebound rating is a 1 to 6 number. If it's 1 to 3, Cheevers is going to make the save, and the play is over at that point, and you draw another action card for another play sequence. If the reading is from 4 to 6, Fairburn would score a goal. But not necessarily, because you have to check the rebound box on the action card, and it's possible that someone other than Fairburn will be credited with the goal. So here is the 1 to 6 number that'll tell you if it's in the goalie's range or outside his range. And then here's the player who ultimately takes the rebound shot. So in the case of Fairburn, we'll draw one action card and see what we come up with. So it's 4, that's the 1 to 6 number, and left wing. So back to Cheevers' card, 4 is outside of his rebound range, so there's a goal scored on the play. But it's showing the position left wing is different from the player who shot it. Fairburn was a right wing. So in this instance, Bellone scores on the rebound, the left wing, and Fairburn would get credit for an assist for taking the shot. So you already have your first assist on that goal. So again, we'll say Fairburn scored a goal, and we'll pick another action card, see what we come up with here. So in this case, the 1 to 6 number is a 1, and that falls within Cheever's rebound range of 1 to 3. So Cheevers has made the save on that play, and that play sequence is over. And again, if that had resulted in a goal, the goal would be credited to the center, not the player that shot it in that instance. So in that case, if there was a goal, Tkachuk would get the goal, Fabrin would get an assist and credit for a shot. Now there's some readings, let's see, in that case, okay, right here. If this had come up, 5 right wing, the 5 would be outside of Cheever's range, so the goal would score, and it's showing right wing as the scorer. So in this case, Fabrin was the right wing, and he got his own rebound and scored. So it is still possible that the player who took the initial shot to get credited with a goal on the rebound. So that's how rebound situations are handled. And also on the player's scoring chance rating, the letter rating, you'll notice some players do not have a rating. Here, Tim Horton, Alan Hamilton. On the Bruins, Gary Doak and Bill Spear do not have a rating. So that means under the normal course of play, checking the player's letter grade when there's a scoring chance, that these players will never have a chance under normal situations to score a goal. But they do have a remote chance of scoring a goal on a rare play reading. Now, rare play will come up in the box right here where it's showing who gets a scoring chance. It'll say rare. And what that's referring to, I'll show you the chart that it's referring to. Now, the chart is incorporated onto the action cards, but if you were playing the dice version of the game, you'd be referring to this chart right here. And if you had rolled a 7, scoring chance for, we'll call that a dash rated player. A goal if 2 to 5 is rolled. So those 4 players that we just showed you do have an outside remote chance of scoring a goal if the rare play reading comes up and you either roll the 7 if you're using the dice version, or if it happens to come up, let's see, while I'm looking at the cards that are out, I don't see an example of that on the cards that are out, but it will be on the bottom here where it says rare play. Now other things that can come up on the rare play chart, and again, these are all incorporated onto the action deck. A player can have a breakaway and score, or a breakaway and not score. A goalie or a shooter can be injured. A goalie can become cold, and you lower his defensive rating, and that changes the other team's scoring range. Or a goalie could get hot, and you raise his defensive rating by 1, and that will also change the scoring range for the opposing team. A penalty shot can happen on 3/11. On 12, if a player scores, he's credited with a second goal 15 seconds later, so they call that a scoring flurry. And this is invincible mode for a goalie, in which a goalie stops all shots for the remainder of the game. That could be a real game breaker when this one comes up. It doesn't come up that often though. And you can see where these are incorporated onto the action deck. Here's the reading for breakaway goal. Here's the reading for hot goalie, shooter injured, cold goalie. So these are a few of the other situations that could come up in a game. And I think that about covers it. And in the next video, we will be dealing with how to handle penalties. So thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.